thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me. So I thought I'd take a little non-traditional kind of way to talking about my path to the C-suite, just a little bit about just me as a person, my journey, which I think is going to be unique for everybody. But before I do that, I just wanted to give a little bit of a background, maybe a little bit on what is UHG and Optum. So I'm currently the Chief Technology Officer for UHC. And if you think of UnitedHealth Group, we really have two platforms that we go to market. We have our UnitedHealthcare side of the business, which is the payer side of the business. And then we have Optum, which you can think of that as everything else across healthcare, which makes my role actually really unique, that I don't only have just the health benefits side, but I also get to work across Optum, across our clinics, across Optum RX, and a ton of the technology that we have in use. If you take Optum plus UHC together, we're actually a Fortune 5. So we're about $325 billion of revenue last year. We have 380,000 employees. And of that, the United Healthcare side is about a $260 billion part of the business. So an incredible platform to have. This was actually one of my first fortes into healthcare. And I think what makes it unique is different than my other roles. I really think healthcare is infinite. It's incredibly personalized. It means different things to different people. And I can't think of a better place that I would have spent the last 7 years of my career. Okay, so with that, we'll kind of give a little bit more. Oh, shoot, it looks like my slides may have lost a little bit of formatting here. You know what? I'm going to do a quick audible. Is there a way to change it that I could just present sharing my screen? Maybe that's an easier one. We're going to give that a shot.
Yeah, give it a try, Julie. We can unshare these, and then when you press present, you should have the separate option there to share directly with the deck.
And just so we're clear, everybody has tech issues. Doesn't matter if you're the CTO.
Does not matter what level of role you're in.
Yes, you got it, right? Okay, so let's see. Give me 1 second. That's funny. Perfect.
Okay, I see your new ones coming up.
All right.
Okay, I can add them to the stage. I am seeing kind of your sidebar with the different slides.
Let me know when you got that going.
Yeah, perfect now. That looks great. Thanks, Julie.
Okay. Okay. I think I landed all the way at the background. So now we got to do the quick zoom. See, like I said, you gotta roll with it. So this actually will be perfect when you think about my story. So first thing I'm going to share is, this is probably my all-time favorite quote. And I learned it early in my life, and it probably continues to be probably one of the most important things. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I know that seems really cheesy, but you will always see these moments in your life where you just want to run at something, regardless of the consequences. But if I think about the most meaningful things that I've ever achieved, personally and professionally, it's when I took the time to bring others along with me. On a personal note, I currently live in Chanhassen with my partner, Sandy, and her two kiddos, Alex and Gavin. So a little bit of photos here. Also got the two dogs in the photo. One was a COVID puppy, our recent ad, Bernedoodle there, Howie and Lacey. Actually, when I first did this, I think the dog photos were bigger than the family. So I'm glad I took a minute to adjust. And also living in Minnesota, we've got a pond in our backyard, and every year I build a crazy outdoor ice rink for myself and the neighbors. And also for Gavin, who's a hockey player. So that's just a little bit about me. So what does kind of the path to the C-suite look like? Well, I think there's what people kind of think it looks like when you start your career. And I've had people say that, wow, you just continue to go up and up. There's what people really kind of assume it is, where it's got these kind of different curves. And then honestly, if I think about the reality, at least for me, it's not even a straight line sometimes, right? You're going to have these different experiences that you're going to build. And no two executives I've ever met would describe the same journey. How could they? No two people are the same, and your career will definitely not be the same. And I can tell you where I grew the most was when the most unexpected things happened. So I at least wanted to share a little bit of that while I jump into a little bit of my journey line. So a little bit of how it started. I'm originally from Janesville, Wisconsin. So a relatively small town, about 65,000 people, which was great. I'm also a huge Packer fan, so you'll probably see that. If you can see the background here, you'll notice there's some Packer gear. And I'm currently number 112,000 or so on the Green Bay Packer ticket season waiting list, which only like a couple hundred tickets open up every year. So the main reason I put that up there is if there's anybody who's got some Packer tickets and wants to get rid of them, you can hit me up on LinkedIn, be happy to help you out. So after Wisconsin, I went to school in upstate New York. I went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and I actually grew up in a hockey family. So I got to take two of my favorite things, which was hockey and kind of an overall passion for STEM and engineering, and go to a very strong engineering school and get to continue my hockey career. So on the left, that is actually the logo for the RPI hockey team, which is even an engineer with a helmet. So it couldn't have been a better fit for me, from Wisconsin to upstate New York. And while I was at RPI, I actually got a chance to start my career through a co-op. So my senior year, I actually spent working full-time for GE Power Systems in Albany, which was huge. And the main thing that I can kind of look back on this part of my career is I learned things. Like, I think that's what you forget. When you're in college, your job is to learn things. It's not necessarily always about what your major was or what you did, but really, really showing, do you have the ability to learn new things and apply those going forward. So that was kind of my college experience, tons of fun playing hockey. I think that stayed with me a very long time, because one thing you'll always notice is I'm someone who constantly needs to be part of a team and to contribute to something bigger. After RPI, after I graduated in 2002, I took a job in Washington, D.C. working for ExxonMobil. And at the time, Exxon was actually the world's largest company. It was a Fortune 1, and it had just merged between Exxon and Mobil together. So they were restructuring and thinking the whole company and kind of bringing those two cultures together. I started my career off in the technology team as a software engineer. And candidly, I call this part of my career where I break things. And that's what you're going to do earlier in your career. You're going to learn and you're going to break things. Everything from shipping bad code that took down the entire operating system at a refinery for a long weekend to other classic mistakes all of us will make. And I learned that that's actually okay. That's how you learn, and that's how you actually grow. With that, Exxon was amazing in continuing to invest in me and moved me to multiple different projects. And the last project I got to do was actually a global SAP retail implementation. So I started to support all of the convenience retailing locations globally that were standardizing their operating systems. This is also where I start to get to travel internationally, which was such a unique opportunity for me early in my life and my career. And when I was working in Germany, I actually met a bunch of SAP consultants who were helping with the project and got really interested in that. I also thought that if I wanted to build a long career in technology, not that you can't do that at big and small companies, and not that big companies don't have amazing, fun technology problems, but that I should probably work for a software company. So with that, I actually took a job with SAP. So I left ExxonMobil, which was a phenomenal part of my career, and joined SAP. And when you think about kind of what's your core work product at this point in your careers, a lot of this point in my career, my core work product was code. What I kind of owed everybody was really, really good code at the start. With SAP, I could live anywhere I wanted. So I decided to move to New York City, which was a blast because at this point, too, my younger sister had just graduated from RPI, moved to New York, and SAP was amazing about helping me get exposure to tons and tons of other companies and brands. So literally Monday mornings, I would get on a plane, and Thursday nights, I would come back to New York. And I got to work with tons and tons of other retailers, everybody from Apple to Zappos. And actually, for 2 years, I spent my tenure at Best Buy as the chief architect for Best Buy International. As I was growing my career a little bit more and I was learning a lot from other people, I'm still breaking things, by the way. I certainly have a lot of stories about deployments that went bad, overnights of trying to push code, just botching total presentations. So trust me, this is not a story about always nailing it. It's about a ton of people who took time to invest in me and to make sure that I understood how to learn and to grow. I also start to become larger and larger in my career where I'm starting to go from an individual contributor where my work product is now putting together really talented teams. And how do I start to connect the right talent to the right problems and leverage some of my network within SAP and other companies? This is also where I learned a huge lesson that someone taught me, which was to never trade a relationship for a result. And I thought that was so important, right? How often do we just want to do something or to kind of say, hey, forget what everybody else says, let's go do this thing, regardless of what the consequences might be to either your relationship or your brand. And I thought that that was really important. And I learned that a huge part of what started to become my superpower was the ability to really bring other people together to help me solve problems. So maybe the reason I break less things is I got a little bit farther away from the code and more into strategy. But that was a huge part of my experience, was not only learning how to build commercial grade software, how to work across multiple different brands and entities, and just having this kind of hyper learning experience within my career. I was having a fabulous time at SAP. I had actually just landed a client that I was really excited to help, which was Nike out in Portland. And on my way back to New York from Portland, I got a very interesting call from an executive I had met at Best Buy. He had recently left Best Buy to go be the CIO of a privately held conglomerate based in Dubai called the Alpha Tame Group. And he actually asked if I'd be interested in coming and joining the Alpha Tame Group, but actually as their CIO to run all of technology. Originally, I actually kind of shut him down and said no. I was like, no, that's not the job I want to do next. I wasn't candidly looking to move out of New York or to move to the Middle East at that moment. But he was very, very persistent in the fact that he taught me two really, really important things. One is never say no to a job until you know what it is. I can't stress that enough, right? How often do we say, no, that doesn't sound right, or doesn't look like something I might want to do, or maybe doesn't match something you think you're ready for? And he was amazing at helping me learn two things. Never say no to a job until you know what it is. And he took the time to better explain the group, the opportunity, and the strategy. And candidly, with that, we started to actually design a different role than CIO, which would look more like a CTO to help come run the overall strategy. So after a long time of kind of thinking and debating, I did something I never would have expected in my career. I left SAP to go work for a privately held company based in the Middle East and moved to Dubai. So I also realized that there was a really important moment in my life where I was, and my partner and I will always talk about this as kind of the season of our lives, where candidly I could say yes to it. And I think that's super important for everybody to remember. You're not always going to be in a position where your life goals match your career goals. And when you have those moments where you can say yes to something, I would encourage you strongly to take that investment. So I moved to Dubai, and actually very quickly, I learned that the situation of the group had changed. The strategy had changed. They actually decided to get rid of the executive who had brought me in. No fault of his own, just an overall change in strategy. And my role changes again. I came in to kind of lead strategy, architecture, and the CTO function. And they asked if I would stay to lead all technology for Alpha Tame, which is a very big company. It's actually got 7 different business lines, highly diverse, strong technology organization, growing through mergers and acquisitions, and was a huge role. In fact, it was a monster role. It was probably a role that I had candidly a little too soon, even though I was growing immensely from that overall opportunity. What I actually learned at this moment is not only when Bob had left, had I lost a little bit of my sponsor, but I didn't really have strong mentors. Well, I had a ton of support from the executive team. The CFO took a ton of time with me. I had access to our CEO. Candidly, they were at different levels of their career and experience. They weren't actually the best people to mentor me. Well, they could absolutely support me. They could help me get things done. That was super important to me, of not having a direct mentor to learn from. The other thing I would encourage you to do and to think about is, in a lot of cases, people want mentors to be people who are maybe 3-4 levels above them within their career. And that actually sometimes isn't going to be the best. You're not necessarily sharing the exact same experiences. You might not actually get the same connection with them. So not only would I encourage you to say you should always have mentors, know when you need them, but to make sure that you have mentors that are actually for what you need at that moment. So huge opportunity for me in Dubai. I actually got the chance to travel more internationally as well. So I got to go everywhere from working with some of our business units in London to Sri Lanka to back to New York. You name it, Alpha Tame had a pretty good network, and I got a lot of experience out of that. So after about a year in Dubai, I realized that actually I wanted to come back to the US. Not that this wasn't a wonderful experience, it just wasn't the experience for me right now. And with that, in 2011, I actually decided to come back to the US. And that's when some of the teammates I had met at Best Buy asked if I'd be interested in joining Best Buy. This is also how I end up in Minnesota and also how I meet my partner, Sandy, who's a Minnesotan. So in 2011, I leave Dubai, come back to the US, take about a month off for a mental break, which I highly recommend, and joined the Best Buy team. And by this point, for those of you that don't know the history of Best Buy, it was having a bit of an identity crisis. In fact, it was in the middle of a going out of business type of model. So I had actually come into the company and got the chance to once again start to kind of shape my role. When I came in, I knew I wanted to do something different. And I felt strongly that Best Buy's ability to be successful was to kind of change the traditional way that it delivered both technology and went to market, and to look for new and innovative ways to do that. And I was pretty lucky that I actually got the chance to create my job that I first took at Best Buy during the interview process. This is another place where mentors were huge for me. Originally, the first role that Best Buy had kind of shaped and offered for me, maybe appropriately, I don't know. I took the time to actually push back, talk more about what I actually wanted to do. And literally in the interview process, I started a whiteboard with what would be my future VP, a role where I started to focus on more of data, open source software, software engineering standards, and different ways to kind of get after a multi-channel experience. Well, this wasn't the easiest of times because you have everybody who's basically writing Best Buy off. I even remember people calling me and asking me why I would go there. And I felt very strongly that actually it had such an amazing culture that if there was a retailer that was going to find its way, it was going to be Best Buy. So over the course of the next 6 years, I get to be part of Best Buy's turnaround story, which is huge. So if you look, I kind of had the Forbes article pretty close to when I joined Best Buy, and the same author actually had a different Forbes article after the turnaround with Uber. When I say I had to rethink everything, I think those are the most unique moments in your career. I know sometimes when you see that a company is going to be scarce on resources and you're going to get asked to do more, you're actually going to grow the most. So I would encourage you not to run away from those. And things that I learned in those moments, I think have also helped separate me from others. So for example, for the majority of my career, I was executing somebody else's vision and strategy. I was, right? Somebody else had a really good idea. Somebody else wrote the business case for it. Somebody went to the approval board and got the dollars for it and fought for it with other things. And I ended being up the person who got to execute it. In the case of Best Buy, we all had to do everything. I actually really, really learned that I loved this part of it, that I had to learn finances differently. I had to obsess over the cost of everything, humans, software, you name it, right? And that strong financial acumen, and I will promise you, finance is the language of business, probably has been one of the most important weapons I think I got to walk out of Best Buy with, along with amazing experiences, getting to be on the front line of a turnaround. And really be part of what I think is still an amazing brand and amazing culture. So thank you to all of my Best Buy alums if you're on this call. But after roughly 10 years in retail, so remember when I was with SAP, most of my clients were retail. Then I do 6 years with Best Buy. I realize I'm ready for something else. And there are only so many Black Fridays a girl can do until it loses a little bit of its luster. And I wanted to try to see if my skills could traverse to other industries. And that's where I start to move to UHG. So in 2016, I actually leave Best Buy and join UHG. And what was really unique about this is in 2016, UHG and Optum weren't necessarily hiring people that didn't have healthcare backgrounds. But I actually had a couple of things I think that they took a chance on me for, to come into a new company and a new industry. One, they were in the midst of doing an agile transformation, and that's been a huge part of me since my time at Best Buy, of the agile and product culture being a huge, better way to actually drive and get things done. Secondly, I got to land in a business unit. So if you look in the middle, Optum Payment Integrity, I came in and got to support one of the business units that builds commercial grade software for healthcare. So while I didn't necessarily have healthcare experience, what I did have were cultural alignment to how we were designing the engineering organization. And I did have a skill that I could start to bring to the table while they wrapped me with support while I could start to learn healthcare. After I came into Optum Payment Integrity, actually, this is a really funny story now that I think about it, in the spirit of never say no to a job until you know what it is. When I actually did my original interview with Optum, I went through the entire process to be a CIO for one of our business units, met the COO, met the CEO. I actually resigned from Best Buy and joined Optum. A few weeks before I'm about to join, I reach out to my new boss, say I'm really excited, just wondering if there's anything I can do. And it actually calls and tells me that instead of the business unit that I actually accepted the job for, I'm going to go be the CIO for the Optum Payment Integrity business unit. And I remember for a few minutes going, holy cow, what an amazing mistake I've just made. I've already resigned from Best Buy. And I remembered that in the back of my head of never say no to a job until I know what it is. The reality is I didn't know much about the prior business unit or the one I was going to. But I think quickly getting into that mindset, sending an email saying, I'm super excited for the opportunity. How do I learn? And diving into it was just another super enduring skill and experience for me. So joined literally with a piece of paper saying CIO of this business unit, came in instead for a different one called Payment Integrity, which looks across all of the healthcare ecosystem for fraud, waste, and error. Was an awesome experience. And I originally joined it as VP. So this is also my first time as an executive and my first time getting kind of a formal C-level title at a US-based company. I was quickly able to grow my career to also pick up some other capabilities where I started to lead our first AI kind of G-level, well, when I say G-level, United level capabilities in Optum IQ Studio. And I was continuing to build networks and skills. But one of the things I started to realize very quickly was for me to actually make those next level leaps to the larger seats within UHG and the SVP level and EVP level, there were a few things I needed to really focus on. So first off is you absolutely will need a sponsor in these cases. A mentor is someone who can definitely give you guidance, who can help you with your skills, can be there emotionally for you. But a sponsor is very different. Sponsors are actual champions who are in the rooms already at or above the level. And in some cases, by the way, your sponsors won't even be in tech. Most of my sponsors in my career haven't been. They've actually been some of the business partners who are contributing and giving feedback on ways I can improve and grow. Sorry. So with that, I also realized there was another important thing that UHG was looking for. It was really my ability to be a leader. So how could they actually watch for my ability to create other leaders in the organization? So they weren't watching for my superpowers as a developer. They were watching for my ability to actually invest and grow others. After a few years at Optum, I get the chance to come over to UnitedHealthcare. And at UHC, I actually came in originally as an individual contributor, actually started to pick up other capabilities. And currently, I actually have responsibility for all of our digital capabilities and our BenOps. I will also tell you the thing I learned the most is that really that first part of being a leader is not about a large team. It's about how you're actually able to cultivate and build others. So not only did I need a sponsor, but they wanted to see from me that I could create other leaders at UHG. And I think that's probably the most important thing. I think many people will kind of hold me accountable to, and I'll judge the next part of how successful I am at the C-suite. So this is my last kind of favorite quote. You're not a leader until you produce a leader who can produce another leader. So with that, I'll wrap this up. So a couple of things I will tell you. If you kind of listen overall to my story, the road to the C-suite is never going to be this straight line. You're going to need a network of allies, both internally and externally, to help you along that journey. Secondly, never say no to a job until you know what it is. I think I hit that one pretty good. And next is you'll need a sponsor to get to the C-suite. And you'll need to show that you'll need to do that. You're willing to do that for others. I will also encourage you to think about that never trade a relationship for a result. Going back to my, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Keep that in the back of your mind too, because people will be watching for those inherent attributes on your journey to the C-suite. I hope this was helpful. I think I'm a little bit over time. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Julie. So many great tips right at the end there. I felt myself even wanting to scribble many of those down. And just thank you in general for sharing so honestly with us about your journey. I could tell that was really resonating with those in the audience, wondering kind of things that you're proud of and how you kind of were open to those opportunities, like what happened in Dubai. And so really like genuinely connecting with you. So thank you so much, Julie, for sharing that with us here today.
Yeah, thank you for that. And again, if people have some other questions or anything I can help with, you can definitely drop me just a note on LinkedIn and I'll do my best. And just thank you again to you too in creating this forum for all these amazing women and advocates that are on this. So,
Wonderful.
all right.
Thanks for that offer, Julie. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.